What's the pettiest way you've ever gotten back at a coworker? Back when I was in university, I worked for an armored car company. It wasn't my dream job, but it paid really well for what it was. Some of the guys made entire careers out of it, but for me, it was just a way to save money until I landed something in my field. Because I was technically part-time, I didn't have a set route. I filled in when people were sick, on vacation, or when the company needed extra coverage. The funny part was, despite being part-time, I was working almost full-time hours every single week. Most of the full-timers actually loved working with me. The shifts were scheduled as 13 hours long, but here's the trick. If you finished early, you still got paid for the full shift. Since I was young, quick on my feet, and didn't mind skipping breaks, I could usually finish hours earlier than whoever I was covering for. That meant their partner went home early too, and everybody got paid for the full shift. It was a win-win. Well, everybody except for Kyle. Everybody. Kyle was the classic office tattletale. If Karen is the name for a nightmare woman, Kyle was her male counterpart. He policed the tiniest things. Shirt not tucked in under your vest? Reported. Wrong color pants? Reported. Wearing a cap with the company logo but not official issue? Reported. If there was something to complain about, Kyle was already running to management. Nobody liked him, but he didn't care. In fact, I think he thrived on being the guy everyone despised. So when I got scheduled to cover his partner's vacation, I braced myself. 3 long days of working with Kyle. The first 2 shifts weren't too bad. They were retail runs, low risk, mostly picking up small deposits from stores. Usually one of us would hop out while the other stayed in the truck. Since I was driving, I stayed behind, watching traffic, scanning the area for threats, and, I'll admit, sometimes scrolling my phone. That's when Kyle nailed me. On Wednesday, he came back to the truck just as I was finishing an email. I thought nothing of it until the next morning, when management pulled me aside. They told me I'd been caught texting and driving. I was shocked. Then they explained, Kyle had taken a photo of me behind the wheel with my phone and filed a complaint. If it happened again, I'd get written up. I was livid. I went to our union rep, who confirmed Kyle had ratted me out. That's when I decided, fine. If Kyle wanted me to follow every rule in the book, I would, and I'd make sure he regretted it. Thursday was our last shift together, and it wasn't retail this time. It was the long haul. 400 kilometers to the provincial depot, dropping off all the money collected that week. The entire trip was 9 hours of driving and maybe half an hour of actual work. Normally, people pushed a little over the speed limit, skipped the unused lunch hour, and got it done early. That meant clocking out by mid-afternoon and starting a long weekend ahead of everyone else. But not this time. That morning, I drove exactly the posted speed limit the entire way. If the sign said 100, I drove 100. If it said 80, I drove 80. Our trucks maxed out at 105 anyway, but around here, everyone drives 15 or 20 over. Driving the speed limit just meant traffic piling up behind us and drivers flying past in frustration. I didn't care. Kyle wanted the rules enforced. He'd get them enforced. When lunchtime rolled around, I pulled over, shut off the engine, and took the full 1-hour break. In years with the company, I had never once seen anyone actually use that break. But that day, I ate slowly, stretched my legs, even checked my watch a few times to make sure I squeezed every minute out of it. Kyle sat in silence, fuming. By the time we reached the city, we hit rush hour traffic dead on, exactly what our early schedule was designed to avoid. The whole trip stretched from what should have been 9 hours into almost 14. That was 5 extra hours of Kyle trapped in the passenger seat, watching me drive like the safest employee on the planet. The cherry on top, Kyle had weekend plans, a trip to the cottage with his wife. He had to call her several times to explain they wouldn't be leaving that night. They'd have to wait until the next morning. Every time he made a call, I could hear the frustration in his voice. When we finally clocked out, I went home smiling. Kyle went home furious, ranting to anyone who'd listen about how I'd ruined his weekend. But I hadn't broken a single rule. No speeding, no skipped breaks, no shortcuts, no phone. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't breaking the rules, it's following them so perfectly that the person who demanded them ends up paying the price.